First of all, thank you very much everyone for waiting for the talk, and it's very quite most anticipated webinar, I guess, because some of the audience did log in at night they on going to this state. Okay, so I always receive notification that there's someone waiting at the lobby room. Okay, so this is actually the exact day and the time. All right, big announcement for myself. Hold on. Okay. Okay, a big announcement. This webinar will be recorded and we will post the recorded session on our Facebook page. And then upon entering the meeting room, kindly turn off your video and also mute your mic. Okay, because if you log in using a gadget like phone or tablet, host actually couldn't have access to mute. Okay, so hopefully you take note about that. And if you have any question, you may enter the question in the chat panel. Okay, and we will collect all the questions to be addressed during the Q&A portion at the end of the session. And so you can ask the question orally, depends on the speaker's permission. And don't forget to fill up the registration form that my assistant already shared in the chat. Okay, and we also will share a feedback form. In case you have any suggestion or what to improve our webinar. And as a center of research management, we actually also, besides serving our own university, we also actually try to engage more with more sharing session or webinar with other university as well. Okay, all right. So before I pass this session to Prof. Lam, who is very eager to deliver his talk, why not I just give a brief introduction about our speaker today. Okay, this is just a brief one. Okay, he has a long list of resume actually, so I picked the key points. Okay, he's a professor at University Malaysia Terengganu and currently the Deputy Director of International Centre under the Office Deputy Vice Chancellor, and then he's a core member of Institute of Tropicals. Okay, tropicals, aquaculture and fisheries. Okay, and then accredited, which is Aquatrop is actually a high COE, which focus on the future food and sustainable shellfish aquaculture by the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. He also was selected as a 2020 top research scientist in Malaysia. He has been managing a research grant of almost 3 million ringgit. And he's quite prominent for journal paper, 188 publication in journal like Lancet, Nature, and also Science. Okay, and then number of citation, we can see there, Scopus more than 3,000, WS more than 2,000, and Google Scholar more than 4,000. And his index Scopus is 35 with the WS 32, and then Google Scholar is 39. Okay, and he also have a ESI hot papers, top 0.1%. Okay, hello. Okay, and then Deputy Editor-in-Chief for Scopus Journal, and also Associate Editor for 3 JCR Index journals. Okay, and also Editorial Board Member for 1 JCR Index journal. Okay, so I think that's a brief introduction about Prof. Lam. So without further ado, I think I will pass this session to Prof. Lam. Okay, Prof. Lam, over to you now.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much to the Center of Research Management of UTAM, especially to Dr. T for inviting me. So initially I thought that I'm only sharing my experience to researchers and also students from UTAM, but I didn't expect that this is open to everyone. But I mean, Dr. T has told me that it is open to everyone. So I'm so glad to see there are a lot of friends here and also some of the new members, new friends. So very good to see you all. I can see that the participants has reached about 500 something. So I really need to give my best to just share my experience to you. So let me just share my slide. Thank you. Let me just share my slide and then before I continue talking. Dr. T, can you see the slides?
Yes, very clear. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now I will start my sharing. So just want to clarify that, I mean, what I'm going to present today is more about my personal experience, and some of the slides I actually, I mean, I got it from others and also from friends, shared by other friends. So it's just lump sum together as my personal experience on how I approach this in writing a review paper. I wouldn't say it's a high impact review paper, but what I think is because along the process, if you keep on writing and also doing this, trying to write review papers, more and more review papers. So definitely you will, of course, you get to publish in a higher impact journal. So that makes your review paper becomes a higher impact. So I'm just trying to share my experience to you. I'm Lam from Aquatrop, Institute of Tropical Agriculture and Fisheries, and from University Malaysia Terengganu. So let's continue. So this is what I'm going to cover. So I'll talk a little bit on why we want to write review papers, okay, and what is actually a review papers, and maybe some of my strategies and some of the tips that I can share on writing a review papers, and also where to submit and how to submit, and what are the challenges in writing a review paper. So this is roughly what I'm going to cover. Before I continue, if in any case that you cannot hear my voice clearly because I'm using the internet at home, so you just let me know. I can just turn off my video, and then that will make the internet flow is better and clearer. Okay, right. So overview. So, but personally, to me, when I was young, like when I was doing my PhD and masters, at that time, my supervisors always share with me that I think some of you may have to mute your video. Just to avoid the noise. So it's always very exciting to me to be able. When I was a student, to able to submit the paper to journal. At that time, we didn't talk about accepting or publishing the paper, but just to the stage of being able to submit, it's already very exciting to me because I remember when I used to talk to my supervisor saying that, Prof, I've been working so hard to do my experiments, to write my literature reviews, everything, but is there a chance that we can submit it to the journal or something? He said, yeah, if you can really write into the stage that you can submit this, it's a very fruitful experience. So I listened to him, so I keep on writing. Okay. And when you actually receive the email saying that your paper is accepted, I'm sure it's very exciting and also it's very satisfactory to you. And this happens to me. Even receiving that your paper has been accepted, it still excites me a lot, actually. And not only I'm the one who is very happy, my whole team, my research team members, they are all very happy because that kind of experience is really hard to tell, but you will feel that. Okay. But of course, in contrast, when you get the email saying that your paper is rejected, it could be depressing, but practice makes perfect because over the time, like in my case, I often receive rejections as well, but you just get better and better on that. So what I'm hoping to say is, in terms of writing and submitting a review papers, never give up. You need to know that you need to believe that your review papers, yes, it is rejected by this journal, but if you keep on improving, sooner or later it will land a journal that appreciates your efforts and also your contributions to the academic world. Okay, so even the Nobel Prize winners, they also get their paper rejected. So rejection is a very normal process. Okay, right. Maybe just a little bit of the sharing of my backgrounds, and I try to link it to writing the review papers. Right. So this is me. Yeah. What I'm showing this slide is because one thing I would like to share is if you are a researcher, if you are students or professors, associate professors, whatsoever, it's good that you always expand your networking. So in my case, I'm lucky to be appointed and also to have collaborations with researchers from, let's say, in China. I was appointed by professors in some of the universities. So I think some of you didn't mute your video. Right. So if being appointed at other universities, that gives you a chance to involve in, their joint research and also their review papers, because nowadays every students, they will have to write their review papers. So that gives you an exposure to get to approach more researchers, to get to know more review papers by them. So that in a way actually will help you in writing your own review papers, right? And next is, it's good if you can involve yourself in editorial role. Okay, so by this I mean that if you are a researcher, if you are a lecturer, try to get yourself to be appointed to contribute or to be given a chance to contribute to journals by perhaps start working as a reviewer for them. And after that, you will be invited to guest edit some special issues. So by having all these experience, this allows you to know the journal in your field, especially the journal that will, that you are appointed as editors. So this also allows you to know the requirements by this and that journal, especially on review papers, because each journal, they have different requirements for review papers. So by becoming an editor, you are sort of like you're getting into the circle, the management of this journal. So that allows you to know the bits and pieces for review papers. For example, like let me just give an example. Let's say for this journal, if for that to submit a review paper into this journal, the review paper needs to have a description of the methodology. But for some journals, they require method sections in the review papers. So it's always good to involve yourself as editorial board members or editors in journals, right? And yes, it's good that you have a team of members in your research teams. So I'm lucky that over the years, I have built up a team that we have like postdocs, we have PhDs, and also masters. So that gives you a group of people that can actually work together in writing review paper together. Okay, I understand that some of you may not have a research team, but having said that, that doesn't mean that you cannot approach the postdoc or the PhD students in other team or in other university or the collaborators of your supervisors. You can always approach them, but of course by discussing with your supervisors, and then together to write a review papers. So this actually increase the speed and also the level of the review paper that you write. Okay, right. And yes, it's one of my strategies that I have always been implementing or adopting is I tend to, I'm a very friendly person. So I like to work with others and collaborate with others. So over the years, I've been quite lucky to have worked with researchers from different countries in different universities. So these universities are where my collaborators are located. So imagine the number of review papers or the opportunities to join review papers. That will increase if you have more collaborators. Try to. My key message is try to. Can we get some of you like mute your videos, please, because yeah. Maybe the co-host can try to mute everybody. Just try to help monitor because they are already echoes now. Thank you. Right. So for this slide, what I'm trying to highlight is to expand your. So even if you are a student, you can also be friends and approach researchers, students in other universities. And Dr. T, could you mind to check on the echoes? Thank you. Yeah. Right. So I think the echo is gone. Right. So even when I was a student, I have already started to to try to collaborate with students and also to make friends with researchers from other countries. So that actually gives you a very good exposure to write and also to publish a review papers. All right. So that's for international, and I'm from Malaysia. So of course, domestically, I also encourage you all to work with researchers in different universities in Malaysia as well. I mean, in your countries. Okay. In my case, like in terms of writing review papers, whenever I'm organizing or initiating a review papers, I will invite researchers from, let's say, these universities, and each of them will contribute a part to the review paper. So that actually speeds up, as I said, the speed. Shorter the time to write a review papers, and also to improve the qualities, because each person, they have their different backgrounds and they have their expertise. So if you yourself or your own team member writes the review paper, the quality tends to be not that good compared to having a group of researchers from different universities to write the review papers. And also from the perspective of editors of a journal, when we see, I mean, this is to me, I think it also applies to some editors as well. When we see that a review papers, you have authors from different different universities and different countries, we tend to believe that that review paper is more quality of higher levels. Okay, it's not just produced by one university and one single researchers. So that's what I would like to share with you. Okay, so yes, writing a review paper is really a learning process. Okay, why I'm showing this slide is, okay, 2012 is the time when I'm finishing my PhD studies. At that time, I know that writing review paper is important. Okay, although back in the time when we were studying our PhDs, my time, Dr. T as well, we graduated from the same university. At that time, publication is not a very strong requirement by our universities in the UK. So at that time, but still at that time, I know that writing review paper is very important. So in 2012, I started to learn and write review papers. So yes, I managed, so lucky, managed to publish one review papers together with my supervisors. Then after I finished my PhD, I came back to Malaysia in 2013. So these are the time, 2013, 14, 15 are the time that I started to learn and to know, to practice on how to write review papers. So as you can see, there's really not much review papers published during that time. But after taking 1 or 2 years, trial and errors, so it gets better. So 2016, we managed to have like 2 papers published, 2 review papers published. And 2016 to 2018, because we already have some experience, we are developing some strategies on how to improve the quality and also the quantity of the review papers that we have written. Like for example, at that time we try to, because I'm already a supervisor, I'm a lecturer, so I will have final year students, I have some master students. Okay, so I try to develop strategies where I will involve the final year students and also the master students to write the review papers. But of course, there are some successful case, there are unsuccessful case, because some of the final year students, they may not know how to write a review papers. So in terms of the strategies, we are revising. So after fine tuning, develop a good strategy, so you will see the results, I mean, the outcome become better and better. So in 2020, 2019, 20 and 21, so we managed to publish a lot of review papers. And at that time, because your network has already expanded as well, okay, so you have more collaborators. So in terms of the quantity of the review papers, of course, it will increase. Okay, and also I have to, attribute this to COVID-19 as well. During COVID-19, one positive side is that we get more time to do our work. So in this case, I get more time in planning and also in writing review papers with my team members and collaborators. So of course, it gets better and better. So we have quite some experience in writing review papers. Right. So and this is, writing a review paper is not something like a very simple thing where you can just write and then publish. It takes experience. You need to build up your experience. So these are the journals that over the years that I have been trying to publish my review papers. So we are grateful that we have published review papers in these journals. So, but I have to say that we didn't start writing a review paper and target, let's say, progress in energy and combustion science. To me, it seems it's quite impossible if you want to publish in very high impact journals. If you just started to write, started to learn and to write review papers. So initially, I'm being very honest here. I started by sending my review papers to Energies. At that time, the impact factors is just, I think it's just one or two, but we try. So that's how we learn. So step by step, we try by submitting our papers to journals with higher and higher impact factors. And because practice makes perfect, it gets better and better. So now, we are lucky that we have experience and we managed to publish in this journal. So what I would like to highlight is when you want to publish review papers, you may choose to submit to journals starting with a lower impact factors first, okay? And then it gets better and better. Don't try to just aim like all these high impact journals, but you will get there, but you just have to be in a step-by-step approach, okay? Right, and yes, things have been going well. The other strategy that I would like to share with you guys is, even now at this stage, I never stop writing review articles myself. I never stop writing myself. So I have been learning from some mentors, like let's say Prof. Christian Sohn. We've been writing different types of review articles, okay? Review articles, it may not have to be a very long review articles. Like we have submitted to Nature, it's just a correspondence, but it's like a very super mini review articles to us. So we have to do a lot of readings, and then from there we have to summarize our writings and also our literature reviews into maybe 2 pages, and then we submit to Nature's, and then we got to publish. So what I would like to highlight is try to tap into opportunities of writing review papers, different types of review papers. Even start by writing a correspondence. Okay, it's really not easy to write a correspondence and to publish in Nature's, to be honest. Okay, the rejection rate is very high, it's 95%, I think. But one is what I'd like to highlight is you keep on writing, and secondly, you invite or you approach, you offer yourself to some well-known researchers. You write with them and ask them to guide you. This is how I learn. Okay, so I'm lucky to have Prof. Christian Sohn, who has published a lot in Nature and Science. He is willing to guide me. So that's how I started my process of improving my writings and also in writing review papers. Okay, and yes, so I started by offering myself to write with them as a co-author. So I contribute to some sections or some content. And after a while, when we get enough experience, I actually volunteer myself to say, let me just also write, to be the main author, the first author to write the articles myself. And then we got lucky. And of course, along this process, we become improved and improved.
Return on investment. So here is a simple case. Here you are making
I think we have also some background chat there. Firdaus, can you mute your mic? Thank you. Yeah, so like Nature, you can try to submit correspondence to Nature. It's a very short review actually. So you can see the way you can actually feel free to go and read these short articles and see how we write. It's actually, to me, publishing in this journal in a form of correspondence or letters actually actually improves me a lot in writing very, very good, short and precise paragraph. And that is very important for you to write a high impact review articles. You basically, one of the most important element is you have to write well. Okay, so that can only be done by having people to guide you. And secondly, you have to write yourself and keep on improving and improving. Okay, so I have been improving myself with my team members and also with my collaborators. So we keep on trying to, we have regular time to write different sorts of articles, and then we submit. So yeah, we publish in Science, some articles. Like for these articles, there was a time that Australian was having a wildfire, a big fire, and then at that time we just got this idea that what would happen to the koala bear during this wildfire. So we go and dig further into it, and then do some literature reviews, quite a lot of literature review as it, and then we write up in articles and then submit to Science. Okay, so yes, we keep on trying. So I mean, recently for this year, we work on this European eel. We found that it's almost at the risk of completely is extinct. So we think we need to raise the awareness. So we write a short letters to Science to raise up the awareness. So try to write try to write different forms of articles, so that will give you a good experience of how to write good review papers. Okay, so review papers, you have the many different types. So I'm just sharing the type of the review papers that I can summarize and that I have experience. So we have been working with collaborators to write what we call a long review papers. Long review papers, we would say at least it's about like 15 pages above. Okay, so then you can submit to some good journals like Renewable and Sustainable Energy Review and Progress. This one is one of the highlights that in my experience in writing review papers, because this is a very, very long review articles. It's like writing a books, but I mean, it gives you a good experience. So speaking of this, I also would like to highlight again, if you just write on your own or with your team member, it's very difficult. So we've been working with researchers from different countries. So each of them can focus on certain sections. So that will speed up the process. For long review articles, it would take us about at least 1 year. Progress for this paper, it took us about 2 years to write the review papers. So that's what we mean for long review articles. It will take us at least 1 year to 2 years to plan, to write up the draft, and also corrections, and then submit. Okay. So we've been writing different sorts of review papers. So you can write the review papers that are relevant to your background, and then you can try. So this is an example that a long review papers that we have involved researchers from different universities in Malaysia. Like we have from Petronas, we have from Bridget is from Curtin University, and we also have the UTP. So we've been involving researchers from different universities, and then they all write certain sections, and then we combine it and then improve the flow and then submit it. Okay. And yes, personally, my team, we also have been writing long review articles. So what we normally do is nowadays, for my team members, students, master students, PhD students, even postdocs, to me, I would urge them, or I would recommend and encourage them, for each of them, before they do any experiments, they do any analysis or experiments, they have to conduct literature review, right? So that literature review is not just reading some papers and conducting the literature review. They have to write into a review papers and then submit it. So that's one of my strategies. So let's say for this paper, Dr. Wan Adiba, who is already my postdoc now. So this is a literature review that she has been conducted for her PhD studies when she did a PhD study with me. Okay, so these are long review articles. Having said that, if I ask you to just strictly write a long review papers, it may not be that feasible or approachable to you and also to me. So you can also write what we call a short review article. Short review articles, in terms of the time, it will take us 3 to 6 months to write a short review articles. Okay, the time, and of course with a shorter length. So let's say 10, 15 pages, a short review article, just focusing on a certain topic. Okay, so you can also write a short review articles. Feel free to go and download these papers and then to have a look at to have a look and access what I mean by short review articles. Okay, like let's say for this environmental chemistry letters, we wrote these gasifications short review articles. It took us about 3 months, I think, to write the papers. So that's what I mean by short review articles. Okay, and yeah, okay, yeah, and also yeah, and this is basically written and then we submit to Journal of Hazardous Materials. So what I'm trying to say is some journals they also accept short review articles. I want to clarify that some of us may think that review articles it has to be very long and then you have to spend many years, a long time to write. So it's not true. It's actually there are also short review articles that you can write. Okay, like for example, this is another form of another type of short review articles that we have written and published. We work on chlorpyrifos pesticides. We try to find out what's the remediations, what is the current status, and then we write. I think it's just 5 or 6 pages, and you get to publish in also a high impact journals as well. So in your case, I would suggest you can find some topics that is relevant for students to your PhD, to your masters, or for lecturers. Find some topics, the hot topics that is relevant to your field of expertise, and then try to write a short review articles as a start. So that would be a good step to start. Okay, right. And other than short review articles, we also have mini review articles. So even shorter. Okay, even shorter. By this I mean, like, let's say recently we've been invited to write a review articles on Arctic's Gateway. So I actually gathered a group of so we have like final year students. Bernard and Felicia are final year students. Xingying is my master's students, and then we team up with some collaborators from overseas, and then we write these review articles, and we then manage to publish in Stoughton in Science of Total Environments. Mini review articles. It takes about, I think, 3 to 5 pages. You can try. It's also another type of review articles. And there was a time that China I think the world are having these locust problems. So we know this could be a hot topic. So we also, practice by writing a review articles on this. Yeah, and you can also publish in environmental research. Okay. So another thing that I would like to share is for your review papers, if you can write something that is relevant on environment, so there are a wide range of journals that is in the field of environment that you can choose, like environmental research, environmental pollutions, Journal of Hazardous Materials, Science of the Total Environment, and yeah, so the chances are also higher. Okay, right. And other than the mini review papers, you can also write opinion. It's also a form of review papers, like you have to study on a certain topics, and then from there you analyze the existing literatures, the papers, and then from there you want to develop an opinion for that paper. So we also I have a chance to involve in these papers. It was invited by Prof. Christine Sung. So we write an opinion paper and we submit to Trends in Ecology. So you see, overall, if review paper also have another advantage, that is a lot of high impact journals, they tend to accept review papers. Okay, so imagine, let's say, the efforts that you have been putting on writing review papers, the reward could be more promising and more, fruitful, I would say. Okay, and yes, we also write something on UN SDG goals. Okay, another thing that I would like to say is I always one of the strategies that I have always been adopting is I always encourage my students to keep on writing. So when they have nothing to write for from their experimental findings first, for their master's or PhD studies, I will ask them to find a topic and write a short review articles. And then together we improve it together, and then we submit to journal. So that's in a way to improve his or her writing as well for students, and also for young researchers, and also even for myself. So if we keep on having the momentum and keep on writing, there will be a stage that you will know that you will write better and better and better. So when you write better and better, when it comes to the stage that you have to write for papers, for your thesis, for your research papers, it gets easier because you have gone through the training from writing the review papers of certain topics. Okay.
I think that is what
Right.
Ikram suggested, the one that have to go through every single line by line item and then find out whether this part is used on.
SN Tan, do you mind to mark your video? Thank you. All right. So another thing that I would like to share is it's always good for students, master students, PhD students, researchers, try to involve yourself or to contribute by being a reviewer for journals. Okay. If you are not invited to review papers, you can write emails to the editors of this and that journal in your field and offer yourself to review papers. I'm sure they will invite you. So over the years, I have been involving myself to review papers. So by reviewing papers, I get to know the type of the review papers, the quality of the review papers of this and that journal. So that actually allows me to become better when I want to write a review papers and submit to this and that journals. So I really urge you to offer yourself to become a reviewer for journals. So over the years, I have been reviewing papers for all these journals. Even when I was finishing my PhDs, my supervisor would train me to be a reviewer, to write comments, to study a paper and then give comments. And then from reviewing papers, that also gives you that allows you to read a lot of articles, and in a way that would also help you in finding the right topics of writing this and that review papers. Okay. Motivations. Right. So yes, I have always been trained in this culture by all my previous mentors and also supervisor. They always say to me that yes, doing research is important, having good findings is important, but you always need to translate or present or publish your findings. Otherwise, it's useless. So as what has been said here, if research it is not published, not shared to the research community, then you can just assume that research has not been done at all. So yes, I always believe that once we work, we research, we got our findings, or we study a topic, we do literature review, we finish the literature review, then we have to publish it. Okay, why we want to publish it is just there are so many reasons. I can share a bit more later. So if you didn't publish your work, so who will benefit? Possibly you yourself. You just read it. You just in Malay sometimes we will say if we read a lot of things and then we didn't publish or we didn't write into the papers, then it's like we shot sendiri. We just read it and then without really producing anything solid outcome. Okay, so and who is the disadvantage? If you didn't publish your works, other researchers cannot get to know your work, your findings. So this is not good for other researchers and also for your sponsors. So because publication, is still nowadays a form of or KPI required by funders, your sponsors, and also by your universities. Right. So why review papers? Okay. Some of you may question, we should write and publish more research papers rather than review papers. But to me, I think we need to publish both. Okay. Why? If you look at review papers, if you look at these figures, look at the citation. So over the years, review papers generally have more citations, will receive more citations compared to normal common research articles and conference papers, meaning that a lot of people like to read papers. And when they read the review papers, they find it useful, they learn something, they want to use it in their research, in their experiments, they want to quote this in their results and discussion, they will cite your papers. So by this, I think it's very clear that having a review papers, you will get more citations compared to research articles. Okay, so these are some of my papers, just to give you a good example of the number of citations that you can actually get from publishing review papers. So if you look at some of these review papers over the years, you can see generally they receive quite good numbers of citations. There's one very good example, like we have written and published these papers in chemical engineering journals in 2020. We published in 2020, but to now is 2021. This is the number of citations that we have got for these papers. So that in a way show that a lot of people are reading these papers, and I'm sure some of the findings that we have, we have presented in our review papers are useful for those researchers. So they have cited it. So it feels good to see that wow, my review papers have received good number of citation. A lot of people are reading it. So this is actually bring some useful information to the research communities. That's how I feel it. And so as a result, you can see that by writing, if some of you students or researchers, if you want to increase your citation, writing a review paper is definitely one of the options that you should consider taking. Okay, so my personal experience is we receive good number of citations from our review papers. Okay, let's look at other examples. So these are the review papers published in different journals. You can see some of the review papers, they can get these number of citations, thousands, not hundreds, thousands of citations. So imagine what kind of the impact that it will cause from, from review papers. So that's very good. So whether it doesn't matter whether you are in civil engineering, you are in that field or this field. In general, review articles tends to receive a lot of citations. Okay, a lot of people are reading review papers. Okay, right. The same chemistry, materials, thousands and thousands of citations. So if you want to have more people to read your papers, to cite your papers, you should write a review papers. Okay, not many review papers, right? Okay, biochemistry, you can see some can even reach 28,000 of citations. Okay, right. Physics as well. So I'm just trying to show that different fields, no matter what field they are, if the review paper tends to receive a lot of citations. Okay, and now yes, why citation is important to? Of course, in a way, it reflects the impact of this of your papers, your review papers, whether a lot of people are reading your papers and they found that is good, and then they will cite your papers. Okay, and it's very useful to the university in terms of if they are, in terms of the university ranking, because those ranking agencies like Times, they always they have citations per faculty as one of the assessment for assessing the ranking of the university. So it's important for your universities. And yes, in a way that if you have more review papers, in a way it will improve your recognitions. A lot of people know you, and then of course when more people know you, in a way it helps your promotion. But what I'm personally, I find very useful would be if you are highly cited authors, in a way you get many opportunities, not only for you, but also for your team members. So I have seen, personally, because of writing this and publishing review papers, so a lot of people are reading our papers. So in a way, people know what we are doing. So I often get opportunities like being invited as a speaker, plenary, keynote invited, and then being invited to write a book chapters and to involve and also to be invited to write a joint review papers. And also, I have received invitations from researchers in Europe, in the US, to apply grants together. They will sometimes, if I don't know them, they will sometimes just email me and saying that, dear Dr. Lam, I've read your review papers on this microwave heatings. And yeah, we know that you are quite well known in these microwave heatings. So I mean, we happen to have would like to apply this grant. Would you like to join together and contribute to this and that? So these are the opportunities that you will get for writing and publishing in review papers. So that's very good to me. Yeah, Clarivate Analytics, Web of Science, they will in a way recognize if you are highly cited researchers. So they will have these award ceremonies every year to recognize who are the highly cited researchers. We call it HCR in different countries. So this is a form of recognitions. Okay. And now, yes, let's go to what is a review paper. Let me have some water for a second. Yes, to me, you can review anything. Review meaning you can anything, but one thing that is important is you don't review old papers or old literatures. It has to be recent work. We want something that is recent. We want a review paper that is written based on some recent papers. When I say recent papers, it could normally it refers to papers or literatures that is within the last 5 years. Let's say now it's 2021, so we can say 2016 to 2021. Okay, so you can design to summarize. You read a lot of papers within a similar topic, and then you summarize the finding. But not only summarize. If you just write a review papers to summarize, that is not a good review papers. Once you need to not only to summarize the key findings from this and that papers, but you also need to analyze and evaluate. Write something like the pros and cons of these findings and that findings. You really need to give your own opinions. Okay, bring up the key implications and also the key findings from these and that papers. Okay, it's not just reporting, oh, this paper we found out that, this paper reports that, so that is not a good review papers. And yes, review paper, it has to be broad and general, okay, and not original work like just one papers, okay, and no one has reported before. It has to be review paper has to be a paper that you have written based on the findings from many papers that have been published. Okay, right. And how to write review papers? Yes, I mean, we all know that we need to conduct literature review. Whether you are a master student, you are a PhD student, or even you are a postdoc or researchers. Yes. So what is a literature review? Yes, it's a description of your topic area. You need to know your area, what is happening in your area. So what is the hot topic in your area? And is there something new that you want to bring out from the current status or the current progress of your field, of your technologies? Okay, so you can write out those things, and then always supported by references. Okay, whether it's your own papers and also combined with other papers published by other researchers. Okay, so it's a summary, discussion, and critical analysis of the academic world relevant to your research questions. So I mentioned here is summary, discussion, and critical analysis. So some of us may just write a review papers by just focusing on the summary. We find out 10, 20 papers relevant to a topic that we want to write. Let's say each paper, we just summarize the finding, or paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. That is not a good review papers. You not only have to have a summary, you also have to discuss it. Discuss, what we mean discuss is we have to paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. So you need to ask yourself, after you read those papers, what are the key findings? So after we know the key findings of paper 1, 2, 3, 4, what is the real meaning? What is the real implication? What are the novelty? What they are trying to bring out? And what is the pros and cons? Those are the things is what I mean by discussion and critical analysis. So you need to have these 3 elements, then you can write a good review articles. Okay, so structures, normally, yes, the review articles, you can, of course, you need to have a title, authors, abstracts, keywords, and nomenclatures, meaning the list of the short forms words that you use. And yes, it's good to have a table of content in your review articles too. I mean, some journals, they may specifically require that you need to include table of content in your in the structure of your review articles. So, but generally to me, it's always good to include this because that allows the editor of the journal, when you submit your paper to review to a journal, they can see the flow and the overall structure of that review papers. Okay, so table of content, TOC, is important in my opinion, and you need to have introductions. And yes, some journals would require to have literature reviews, and you have main body, tables, figures, and also conclusions, acknowledgement, and these are, I think most of you are familiar with this. Okay, how many pages, how many references? So it depends on the journal. So I would urge you, when you want to write a review articles, of course, you need to find a topic, right? But normally, at the same time, I mean, to me, I also will already identify which journal that I want to submit my review article to. Okay, by knowing which journal, I will go and study the guide for authors for that journal, especially the requirements for review articles. So let's say for bioresource technologies that I have been regularly submitting my papers to, bioresource technologies for review articles, it cannot exceed more than 50 pages. So maximum is 50 pages. Okay, and they may have limitation on the number of references. Let's say you can only have 50 references. So you need to go and check the journal that you want to submit your journal. Then you will know roughly the pages and the reference. Okay, and the best way is also to, after you know what journal that you want to submit your review article, before you write your review article, try and download the latest review articles from that journal that you want to target, and have a look, study what are the scope, the level, the requirements of the review articles by that journals. Okay, so that's what I mean by get a similar published papers on that topic from this and that journals, for the journals that you want to target. Okay, so the strategy is always, after you know what the topic that you have to identify the topic that you want to write. That topic must be relevant to your field of expertise. Then you list out. You have to list out. Normally, we will develop a table of content in my team. I can share a little bit. Is when we want to initiate a review papers, we identify this is the topic that we want. The topic, it will be, translated into a tentative title of the paper. Then we will write a short abstract, and then we will come up with the table of content. So that's what I mean, listing out the overall structure of the review papers. Then we will search the papers, the papers that are relevant to the scope, the structures, the scope of the review paper that we want to write. Then, of course, once you have searched and shortlist the number of papers that you want to refer, start reading it and then studying it, and then learn from there, and then write. So that's how we approach writing a review papers. Okay, right. So title is always very important. No matter whether it's a research article or review article. So it really needs to tell people what your paper is about. So you yourself, we ourselves as an author, we need to know what we want to write about. And one thing to judge that is to see the title. Sometimes, from an editor point of view, sometimes when we look at the title, we already know that the title is a bit unclear, ambiguous, that in a way we are not sure what you want to write about. So in that case, we will reject the papers. So the title, the strategy is it always needs to be short and relevant to the subject matter. Be straightforward. Ask yourself, after you have planned or write out the title of your review articles, ask yourself, and also ask the opinion of your friends or other researchers, whether the title really reflects what you really want to write. Okay, and yes, not only it needs to be short, relevant, and clear, it needs to be attractive. Okay, don't write a boring review, a title. So you always also need to, I suggest you to also put efforts in making your title attractive. This is very important to me. Okay, and yes, it has a broad interest for larger audience, not to be too specific, the title for review articles, and don't use abbreviations or jargons in like some very difficult word. I would urge you to use common words rather than a special professional word that you use in your field for your title. Okay, right. Example of good titles. I've listed out some of the titles that I've used for my the review papers written by my team members. So we like to use this word progress. Okay, when we see progress, normally it refers to a review papers, and then in waste valorization, using these pyrolysis techniques for hydrogen and gaseous fuel productions. We think that this title is clear enough and not too long, and it's very clear we are trying to write a review articles on using some latest pyrolysis techniques we apply these pyrolysis techniques in waste valorization, and specifically we only want to write a review articles on hydrogen and gaseous fuel productions. So try to develop a good title, and yes, progress in microwave pyrolysis conversion. So we want to use this process to convert this waste into biofuel. We don't want to convert to other things on this biofuel, and we will focus on the batch and continuous approach. So try to write a short titles. And yes, we also, valorize oyster mushroom and waste generated in mushroom cultivation industries. Okay, so when we write these titles, we also send to our friends and collaborators to get the second opinions and to refine the title. So really put efforts in finding, in writing your, I would say your titles. Okay, right. Next. Right. And yes, you can see we tend to use short titles like emerging contaminants and biological effects in Arctic wildlife. Okay, and yeah, so in this case, always try to be clear. Okay, this one is we use in our recent review articles, machine learning technology in biodiesel research. So to me, personally, I would say it's interesting. Like, we know that machine learning is a very hot topic, a very important skill nowadays. And then what about, the application, what has been happening, what are the progress in applying machine learning in biodiesel research? Then we say a review. So try to use short titles, okay? Right. And yes, of course, you need to have the author's names and affiliations. So for those of you who have published before, you know that you need to name your authors, and then you need to have the affiliations. Okay, so here I can share that for review articles, it's always good to have authors from different institutions, different universities, and also you work with somebody from the international, like with different universities in different countries, that will increase the chances. Okay, from my point of view. Okay, right. An abstract. Oh, abstract is very, very important. Okay, abstracts. We think that review articles. A lot of us think that review articles is a long articles, right? So in a way, the abstract needs to be long, but I would say the opposite. For review articles, even for the abstract, we should write it short and precise. Okay, and just telling what are the important information. It's the summary of the work. Yes, the summary, but it's not a long summary. It's a short summary. Okay, so I have given some example here. 200 to 300 words are enough. When you write a very long review articles, okay, let me just share my experience from the perspective of an editor, because I'm an editor in some journals. Whenever we receive some new papers, right? Then we will always look at the title and the abstract, right? If you have a very long abstract, and then every day, let's say in my case, every day I will receive at least 10 to 20 papers to handle as editor. Mean people have been submitting to the journal that I was appointed as editors. I receive 20, 30 papers every day. So imagine you send a review articles to the journal, and I see a very long abstract, and when you write something too long, it tends to be not clear. When I see that it's not clear, I would say, this is maybe not relevant or too boring or too long. Then in most of the cases, the paper will be rejected. Okay, so whenever we write for review articles, especially for abstract, please spend really good effort in writing the abstract and not too long. 200 to 300 words are good enough. Okay, right? Because when we write this, sometimes you need to put yourself in the shoes of the editors and also as authors, because sometimes we as authors, we think that, oh, it's better we write a very detailed abstract, make sure we put everything inside, and then make sure so that the editors will understand what I'm writing, and then be complete as detailed as possible. Don't do that. We like short. As an editor, we like it short. So write a short abstract rather than a long abstract. Okay, right. Next, I've given an example here. So this is one of the papers that we published in Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews. So I've given examples here, the way how we write our abstracts. So you see, we will always have these elements. We will have background, we will have objective, we will have methods,
Session 1,
how we conduct
RYN punya.
and
12 o'clock. Okay.
we have the main findings.
Alright, so that one.
conclusion.
Lepas
So
tu
you
link
can
saya akan
refer-
naik. I will
There's an
show you
interruption.
on your
Sorry.
desktop macam mana nak ambil
Mariam,
attendance live.
can you mute
Yeah,
your
yeah. Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Pralam.
right.
Yeah.
So it's okay. All right. So when you look at the abstract, so you can look at the way how we write our background, objective, methods, findings, and the conclusion. And you will see that, let's say for background, we only use one sentence to just for the background. Okay. So in this case, let me just give an example. We are trying to write a review on using a technique, microwave pyrolysis. I work a lot on microwave pyrolysis to convert agricultural waste to produce biofuel. Okay, so the background, we will say that why we want to write microwave pyrolysis, because we think it's a very promising technique to produce biochar, bio-oil, and syngas. That's it. Then we straightly go to our objective. We tell the audience what we are reviewing. So we just review. Now the latest techniques on using this microwave pyrolysis to convert into biofuel, and these are what we are going to review. We only review on the aspect of the influence of this, and this. Okay, and also we discuss on the techno-economic and environmental impacts. Okay, so the methods you can read a bit further. I don't need to read out everything, but in our review article, in the abstract of our review articles, not only we tell the audience what we review, what is the scope of our review. We also include the key findings from our review articles. What are the key findings? So here we would say, actually, in microwave pyrolysis, in a continuous process, we found out that from the current literatures, these and these and these, they are not explored. Nobody has studied on that before. So in a way, why nobody has studied? Because of this and this reason. So in a way, you tell people that, for in future, for those of you who want to work on this microwave pyrolysis, you need to work on this product yield and reactor design more. Okay, and we also summarize that, if you use agricultural waste as a feedstock, it has advantages with respect to this and this and this. This is the findings that we retrieve from reviewing the relevant papers in this field. So always include main findings in your abstracts. Okay, I see that some of the review articles, in their abstract, they only highlight what they have reviewed. but they didn't include the main findings. So in my for my team, we always write out the main findings in a way that shows that, oh, we are not just reviewing this and that articles. From those from those articles that we have reviewed, we have we have summarized the key findings from our review. Okay, and we make a firm conclusion. We conclude that, oh, if we use a continuous operation to convert agricultural waste in biofuel, our review article shows that it is sustainable and with this and that benefits. So this is our conclusion. So we will always write our review articles, the abstract, in this format. Okay, so just to give you an example, and you need to have keywords as well. So these keywords are the labels of your manuscript. So also it's good to pick your keywords well. Okay, it has to reflect to the subject matters. Why I want to say that is keywords are very important if you want to increase the citation of your review articles. So it's always good to include keywords that are very common in your field and very relevant to the topic that you study, so that it's easier for the people or the audience or the researchers in your field to search, to manage to find your articles in Scopus or in Science Direct, so they can, once they've managed to find your articles, then they can read, and then they find it good, they will cite your papers. So pick your keywords well. So for our team, we always spend some efforts in listing out even the keywords. Okay, like let's say we pick this keyword, then we will go to Scopus, we will go to Google Scholar, we insert that keyword, and then we will see the number of review papers, the number of papers show up, or whether the chances of your review paper will show up by keying that keywords. So pick your keywords properly. That's what I would like to say. Okay, and of course there are some normal requirements, like you are not allowed to have too many keywords. It depends on the journal, not more than 5. Okay, and of course use some established abbreviations. Okay, right. Yes, and introduction. After the abstract, right? Introduction is very important. Okay, my keyword is here, needs to get readers' attention. So by this I mean that you need to write the introductions. You need to have sentences that makes your introduction interesting, not just telling this and that. So after you have written your introductions, try to relook at the introduction of your review article and you read yourself, ask yourself whether it's interesting, whether it will attract others to read further. From an editor point of view, okay, once we receive the articles, like I said just now, we will look at the title, we will look at the abstract, right? We will also look at the introductions, especially the last paragraph of your introductions. So because that allows us to judge the scope, the background, and also the essence of your review articles. So we will read that last paragraph of your introduction. So at least make sure that you write that last paragraph very well, catchy, make it interesting, make it attractive. That's what I mean. Okay, and also the other thing that as an editors, we will assess for review articles, we will see whether you cite others, because review articles is by reviewing some existing and current literatures. So please make sure you cite and give credits to other works. So make sure you have citation and make sure the citation format is correct. And also one thing that I would like to remind you is you will have figures, you will have tables in your review articles, right? The other thing that being an editor that we will assess is those figures. Of course, you will have cite some papers, right? But some of that figures, if you got it from other papers, we will also look at whether you have obtained the copyright permission from that for this and that papers, or that you have cited in your papers. So in the figure, we will always look at your figure caption, the title of your figure, whether you have written something on like copyright permission has been granted or something. okay, and also for table. So that's what I mean by give credit to others' works. It's important that you have that in your review articles. Okay, right. And yes, introductions always convince the readers, always have sentences explaining why your review or why your work is important. You need to write out that sentences. You don't assume that the editors or the reviewers or the audience, they can guess or find out what is what is the importance of your review articles. You don't assume that they will know. You write out those sentences. We think that this we think that this review is important. We think that our review is important because blah 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 blah. We think that reviewing this aspect is important with respect to bringing up or highlighting this and that. So always write out those sentences. Okay, and yes, you need to have this brief statement of the need of the investigation and also review of up-to-date literatures and specific objective. So always have this statement, the sentences, to say why you need to conduct this review and what can the readers learn from that review, from your review articles. And also we will look at when I say we, is many being an editors, when we evaluate your review articles, we will see whether you cite and whether you refer to updated literatures the last 5 years, okay, not 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So we will also assess if let's say we look at your review articles, we found out that let's say now it's 2021 and all the references that you have cited is let's say 2001 to 2005, long time ago, then in a way that would jeopardize the possibility of publishing your papers in this and that journals. Okay, and always have a clear, specific objective. So this also goes back to the last paragraph of your introduction. There you will tell others what is the objective of your review and what is the scope of your review. Okay, so this section should reflect the new contents of the review. So this is also the same as the importance of your review, the novelty of your reviews, the new findings that you will disclose or review from your review articles. You need to have that sentences right in your review articles. Okay, so avoid this long introduction, no good. Okay, and too generals. You talk about this in this paragraph, talk about that in that paragraph without relevance and no relevance to each other's. Too general is not good. No objectives. Okay, no objective meaning that we cannot find sentences that that talks about the objective of your review articles. Okay, so be clear, achievable, and measurable, and not clear. If it is not clear, then no good. Not focused. Okay, and yes, this is very important. Novelty is not highlighted. Like I keep on mentioning and mentioning, you need to have sentences in your introductions to tell what is the novelty of your review, what new findings from your review articles, okay, and whether you cite the latest and the relevant literatures. Okay, so how to generate new ideas, how to know what we should write, what kind of how to know what we should write for review articles. Okay, so by this I would say read more and think more, and also discuss more with your collaborators. Sometimes you are not sure whether you suddenly have an idea. Oh, let's say I want to write about this topic. I think this is important, but whether it's good enough, you can talk to your collaborators, or maybe you can just email some prominent professors or researchers in your field and ask them, dear Prof, I would like to write a review article or a review articles on these topics. I think it's novel because of this. What do you think? And at the same time, you can invite him to join your review articles. Okay, read more and think more. Okay, and also write more. Okay, sometimes when you are writing a review articles, it may not be very interesting at the beginning, but when you have written the first draft, you can improve it and then it will make it more and more interesting. So that's what I mean by writing more. Okay. Avoid lengthy review articles. Don't write too long. Okay. So just give you an example. Nash only for his thesis is only PhD thesis is only 27 pages long, and that won him a Nobel Prize. So avoid lengthy review articles. Okay. And yes, I have given some examples here in writing the introductions, especially in addressing or writing the novelty or the originality of your review articles. So I've given some sentences that you can refer. So you see, this is the way how good authors or good review articles will write these kind of sentences in their review articles. So, or the authors of the paper have briefly discussed this. They use this keyword. However, only a few technologies were introduced. So our main focus of the paper was on this. So see the words, the kind of the words that you use, the terms that you use. Okay. So previous paper in reference 9, the authors presented an overview of this. Again, however, when looking closely, we know that, oh, the previous papers, they only examine and only look at this. They didn't look at this. That's how you should write. So unlike the above mentioned review articles, this paper, now you're talking the novelty of your paper. This review provides a comprehensive review of how this is this and this is this. So this is the way that you can refer to write out the originality and the novelty of your review articles, to show that your review articles is different with the previous review papers, and it can bring out some novel and new findings or new interpretations from your review articles. Okay. Where to find those papers for you to write a topic on the review papers? So I've listed out these is the collections of the platforms that my collaborators and I have been using. So in my case, I've been using a lot, getting papers from Science Direct, Springer's, and Wiley, Scopus. I think that's good enough for me. Okay. Sometimes I also Google and Google search, and also go to PubMed. Okay. So these are the platforms that you can get the relevant papers. Research papers from for you to write your review papers. Okay. Now we go to the main body. I see the time. I still have time, right? Okay. Main body. So depending on your expertise and also your experience, what I'm trying to say is, if you are just started to write review papers, don't be too ambitious. Start by writing short review papers, and you get better and better. Okay, so you can write a short review papers like 4 to 6 pages with only 5 to 10 references, and over the years, and when you have more experience, then you can go for 100 pages, 300 to 500 references. This only when you have some level, really have some good experience and you have good number of collaborators. Okay, so always start by writing something short first. You need to really write it, then only you will get the essence and learn how to really write a good review articles. So start small by writing a short review articles. Okay, tips. Yeah, it's quite easy to publish in some journals. So that's why I just now I say that first you need to know, you can look at the journals, the journals in your field, and then try to download some review papers from those journals in your field and have a look, and you judge the level and the scope. Okay, and then you try to target yourself. And don't try to go for some very high impact journal and then try to target it first. It's very difficult if you don't have experience in writing review papers. And yes, it's always good to prepare a table of content. Like I say, when you write a review papers, always have a table of content so you know the overview and the structures of the content that you want to write in for your review papers. Okay, key features. So review papers, normally you will have to come up or draw a figure something like this. Like this is a figures that is not, a plot, that has not been shown in other papers before. Meaning you plot these papers from, you plot this figure from the papers based on the findings from these and that papers that you have reviewed. So when, let's say I'm an editor, if I see that your review articles actually have these kind of figures, or you have plot of figures that shows the key findings or the key results from these and different papers and over the years, and then in a way it shows that, oh, your papers is quite comprehensive. Your review is quite comprehensive. So we will always have figures that shows different data points, and these data points you got the data from different papers. So having these kind of figures where you have different studies being cited in this figure, I would say it's a very important element. Okay, right. And yes, you see now.
I want to ask you
this is
regarding this, because I face this problem. When you are using a data from
Sorry, please unmute, please. Sorry. Okay.
No, he's asking a question. He's asking a question. It's all right. Yeah. Yes. You may ask. Just now, you're having this problem
regarding the picture.
Okay.
Is that data breach? When you take the data from other papers, they will always put a question mark on you that you have stolen their data. So how do you really overcome that? And when you want to take permission, it's a very lengthy process. So how do you really solve this problem?
Okay, thank you for your question. That's a very good question. Right. So we shouldn't steal other people's data. So there's a right way of doing that. So like I said just now, you need to give credits. You need to get the copyright permission. So actually, getting a copyright permission is not lengthy and difficult as it seems. Okay, that's a simple way. You can email me later. I will show you the right way of getting permission. Let's say if you are trying to get this result, you want to quote these results from these papers. If that papers are from Elsevier Journal, it's actually very fast, very quick. In 1 or 2 days, you can get the permissions. They already have let's say you have a website, you click into that website, you key in the papers that you want to get the data from, and then they will generate the copyright permission for you. So you can email me later, and then I will show you the way. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Getting copyright permission is not difficult.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
All right. So yes, always need to have these kind of figures. Plotting, meaning that plotting your own figures that summarize the key findings from the papers that you have reviewed. This is very important. I have seen some review papers that they only have one figure, and that figure is actually like copy and paste from previous papers. That is not good. Okay. If you want to do that, you can, but you make sure you need to get copyright permission and also to cite the authors. But that is not, to me, a good review. A good review will summarize the key findings from different papers in this kind of the figures, and then you will write out the discussion. That's what I mean, a good review articles. Okay, so this shows that you have really studied, wow, this paper and that paper, and then you replot the data so that we can see what are the trends, what are the current status of these experiments, of these findings. Okay, for table, okay, this is an example that I got it from one of my review papers we published in Bioresource Technologies. So you will see, okay, we want to show that people have been using solar pyrolysis. This is a hot topic in pyrolysis, using solar energy to produce gaseous fuel. Okay, so we have studied different types of feedstock. They use different waste and biomass, and then they pyrolyze these waste and biomass using solar pyrolysis. And what are the parameters, the process parameter, temperature, heating rate, sweeping gas flow, reaction time, what type of the reactor, gas yield, and most importantly, from different papers. You see here, we use 1 paper, 2 paper, 3 paper, 4 paper, 5 papers. So these are the kind of the tables that we need when writing our review articles. That shows that you really have studied the current papers relevant to these topics, and you summarize the key finding in the table. But of course, when you write the main body, the text, the paragraph, you need to discuss further. But a key element would be to have this type of tables. Show people it's very clear to see. Even you yourself as a reader, you can compare. Oh, what is this and what is that? Very clear, straightforward. Okay, right. And this is another paper that we have published in Chemical Engineering Journals. You can see, okay, now we want to talk about fractionation and extraction of bio-oil using different methods. What are the key findings? You see the way we write the title of table, we also put some nice words, I would say, key findings. So what are the methods? So you have method 1, method 2, method 3, method 4, okay? And then what is the feedstock? What is the effluent? What are the species, the purity observation, and from which references? Very important, okay, to have this. Only by having these kind of the tables from that summarize the findings from the papers that we have reviewed, then only you can write out a review articles. That is a very crucial elements, okay? So by this, I mean that by comparison, if you have another table that only cite one paper, and then you list out that table, and that table is exactly the same with the table that you have copy and paste from that paper, that is not good. So we don't do that. We always summarize the key findings, the key results, and we replot the table, we draw the table and also the figures. So that's very important. Okay, right. Conclusions. Okay, conclusions, like I say, it also needs to be short and precise. Okay, and by summary the important points. So don't write your conclusion like a discussion. Okay, by this I mean normally conclusions in my review papers we only have like we will have different formats. Either we will have one paragraph, short paragraph, or maybe we will have 2 short paragraphs, or we will have like 1 short paragraph and a list of key points. Maybe 5 key points from your review article. That's it. Okay. Only list out the very important points. Okay. And it's the concrete findings from the papers that you have reviewed. Okay. And whether you have achieved the objective that you mentioned in the last paragraph of your introductions. That's very important for conclusions. So I have given an example how we have written conclusions for our review articles. So this is one of my review papers. So you can see we write it very short. So we say this review, what we have done is we have presented the different types of pyrolysis techniques to produce hydrogen and gaseous fuel. Okay, and we summarize. We only highlight the most important finding. We say the current literature says that only 6 types of new pyrolysis technologies are available to produce hydrogen and gaseous fuel. Okay, and what are the important parameters? This type of feedstock, this, and this, and we also discuss the challenge and the future direction specifically to improve the yield and quality. That's it. Okay, that's the key findings from your conclusion. So try to make your conclusion short and precise. Okay. Then yes, acknowledgement. Okay, acknowledgements, you have to give credits. So I've seen that some review articles, they don't have acknowledgements, but to me, it's always good to have acknowledgement, and it's good. It adds points if you write your acknowledgement well. So of course, in acknowledgement, you have to give credit to your funding agency, because your agency may have your project is funded. You need to mention it out. And if let's say you got those big grants like Horizon 2020, it's good to mention that so that when the editors see that, they will know that, oh, this is not just a review articles right from just simply nowhere. It's actually sponsored by a grant where you have a group of researchers there, or you approach a group of researchers to write the review articles. So it will add value. Okay. and also to give credits to somebody who have helped you in writing these review articles. Like you have somebody who have proofread your articles, so you can just mention it there. Okay, right. So it's good to have acknowledgements. Okay, right. Step by step. I hope I have more time. Right. Where to publish? Oh, nowadays, let me drink some water first. Nowadays, I think every one of us believe that time is very important to us. Okay, so the time that it takes to write a review articles and to publish a review articles is a crucial factor that we need to consider. Okay, especially for those of you, let's say if you are researchers, you have grants, right? You need to publish certain number of papers as your requirement. Then by this, I mean, in short, you cannot submit your review articles, or you cannot write your review articles too long and submit your review articles to a journal that will take a very long time to consider your review paper, send to reviewers and accept. So those journals I would try to avoid. Okay. So where to publish? So it is important that we ourselves, we need to identify what are the good journals in your field. Okay, that's one thing. What are the good journals that you want to target in your field? And also to look at the review papers in those journals, whether it's long or short. And also the other factor is to see how fast they can handle your review papers. Okay, that's one thing I will cover a bit further later. I have some slides to discuss further. So, but here I'm trying to say is you need to know the journals that can consider review articles in your field. Okay, right. Then next. Okay, impact factors. I mean, we have to consider if you want your papers to be read by more people, to receive more citations. Of course, you will aim to publish your review articles in higher impact journals. Okay, so you also need to find out what are the good journals, the high impact journals in your field, so that you can set it as your target. Maybe I start to try this low impact first, and sooner or later, one day I'm going to hit these high journals. Okay, so you see, I will list out the top journals in my field. I'm the field of chemical and environmental engineering. So these are the top journals in my field. The top journals for review articles as well. I know that, so I will submit to this journal I want to. Okay, right. And how to know about? Maybe just share a little bit, because I think maybe some of the students, you are not aware. You can find out the impact factors, and also nowadays we talk about the quota or ranking, the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So you can just go to the Web of Science, you type the name of the journal, let's say Chemical Engineering Journal, and the publication name, you pick the publication name. So it will come out a list of the articles. So you just click at the journal name, and then it will show up this. So here you will see, Chemical Engineering Journal, the impact factor is 13.273 now. And what is the ranking? It is a Q1 journal, good journal. And also what's the ranking? So Chemical Engineering Journal is actually number 2 in environmental engineering, number 4 in chemical engineering. So you will think, you can access whether you want to submit your journal, your review paper to these journals. Okay, so that allows you to assess, to understand the kind of the journals that you want to target, the quality. This is also another important. You need to see, once you know the journal that you want to target, download 1 or 2 of the latest review articles published in that journal. Download that paper, and then I think on the first page of the PDF of that paper, you will see this information. So it shows that, let's say for this paper, it was received, meaning it was submitted to this journal on 16 March. Accepted April 29. So what does it tell you? So from submitting and review and until it is accepted, it's only about 1.5 months. So is it fast? Is it good for you? You access yourself. Okay, and available online on May. So it's all completed in March, April, May, in 2 months. So would that help you? Would that be beneficial for you? You access yourself. Okay. So I would tend to find journals that has a fast handling process. So my papers, whether it's rejected or accepted, is faster. Okay. I want faster response journals, in my opinion. Okay. Right. And let's look at this. This paper received March, accepted November. So it's about after 7 months and only available on the next year. Is this the journal that you want to try? So you access yourself. Okay. So one way of doing this is judging the time. You can download some papers from this and that journal that you want to target and look at this information on the first page of the PDF. Right. And yes, I'm showing an example that Bioresource Technologies, I think it's quite a fast handling journals. So you see, for this paper, if I'm not mistaken, we spent 4 months, 4 to 5 months to write to draft and write and finalize everything. Then we submit. So we submit on August. In about 1.5 months, we already it's already reviewed and submitted the revised version to the journal, accepted on October. So what do you think? Do you think it's fast enough? You ask yourself. So from submitting on August until it's accepted on October, so it's only about 1 to 2 months. So is it good enough? So I would say yes. I would consider submitting my review paper to these journals. Okay, and you need to know that, especially for review papers, it will normally take a longer time for reviewers to review because it could be lengthy review papers. So judging the time that a journal will take in handling your paper is one of the important consideration, I would say. Okay, time is running out. I need to speed up. Okay, where to publish? See the publication history. I mean, you can ask your supervisor if you have students, what are the good journals? If you don't know which good journals that you want to try. And yes, I always publish. I mean, I don't publish in 1 or 2 journals. I would try to publish different journals within my area of expertise. I would just try because I want to know. I mean, I would like my articles or papers to be read by research communities or people in different fields. So I was trying to send to different journals, not just focusing on 1 or 2 journals. And yes, the good news is some journal, you need to know the trend. When you submit the paper, they will initially reject your paper. And then the editor will say, oh, we have rejected your paper, but we allow you to resubmit. If you have improved based on these points, I will grab that opportunity. You need to know that some of the journal, they have this way, this style. They want to reject you first, so you improve further, then you resubmit, then they will send for reviewers. So you need to know that. So it's good to have. And so some journals allow submission and process for review. Okay, and always invite international experts. Don't be shy. Email, WhatsApp the professors, the well-known professors, and ask them whether they can join your joint review articles, write some sections, or even to comment and improve your papers. Okay, and this is very important. Don't submit the same paper, okay, or don't or the same paper to different journals or many papers by the same author. Let's say you have just submitted this paper to this journal, and you have co-author or you have another student also submit the same paper to this journal at the same time. Don't do that. We don't want to have too many papers submitted to the same journal at one single time. So that's not good. Okay. Then this will in a way sometimes give the impression to a journal editor that is your work really that good quality? You can submit several papers to my journal at the same time. So is it the quality of your paper maybe not that good because how can you have enough time to submit so many papers at one time at the same time to this journal? You get what I mean, right? Right. And best paper selection process. Yeah, you can find out these articles in the journal website. Sometimes you will see the hot topics, top 25. if you don't know what to write, you want to write about something, this is a good place to start to access what is the hot topics in your field of expertise. So go to the journal website, okay, and then you can here go to Science Channel. You can browse top 25 archive and see what are hot topics now. Let's say you go to this is Applied Energy, the journal, top 25 hottest articles. You will see what is the hot topic now, and whether you want to write a review articles based on these hot topics, or what are the new hot topics. Okay, right. And yes, this is a very good service provided by Elsevier. Go to Journal Finder, type your field. Okay, in my case is microwave analysis. You put inside this your paper title, and then that actually shows up the journal that they think are suitable for your papers. Okay, so here you have many useful information. You can see, let's say it will show 48 journals matching your field or your paper. You can see the impact factor. This is very important. These are also very much acceptance rates, 23%, not too bad, meaning out of 10 papers, the 2 papers will be accepted. And this is very important. Time to first decision, 5 weeks. That is what I mean, the time just now. 5 weeks, is it good? I would say it's okay. Time to publication, 3 weeks. So this is a very efficient journal. So this allows you to assess the time for a journal to handle your papers. Okay, Springer also have this service as well. You key in your title, your tentative title, and then your text just a little bit. Okay, then it will show up the journals as well, different journals. There's a long list. You will see the impact factor and the decision. Now, if you look at this waste and biomass valorization, you see it will take about 2 months, 2 to 2.5 months for them to review your paper and get the first decisions, the acceptance rates. So that gives you the time that you will need to, the handling time of the journal. Okay, now I see these are very different examples. It will show, see, 71 days compared to 25 days compared to, and you see the acceptance rate, some is 59%, 38%. Now you judge yourself which one you like. Okay, depending on the journals in your field and the topics that you want to write for your review articles. Okay, how to submit? Okay, so some journals, they only accept review articles. Like one of the journals that I try is Progress in Energy and Combustion Side. They only, you cannot submit your paper there. You have to be invited. So you need to know that some of that journal is like this. And some of the journal, they only accept review articles. You need to know that. You need to find out and know about that. Okay. And some, of course, normally most journals, they accept submission of original research articles and review articles. Okay. And yes, for review articles, sometimes for this and that journal, the editors will ask you to submit your CV. They want to know that you write this review paper, are you actually an expert, or are you actually within this field? So they will check your CV. So you need to know about that, okay? And also prepare your CV, okay? Right, and when you submit, of course, you need to choose the right article type. So you get to choose, you can choose, let's say if you are submitting review articles, you can click here and then select review articles, okay? Now, review articles, let's say Applied Energy article type. Don't submit to original research articles, it will get rejected straight away. So make sure you pick the right article type, right? Now the challenges, okay? Yes, writing a review articles, you need to plan the time and then stick to the time in writing the review articles with your groups, with your team members, and also be patient. I mean, sometimes it get rejected, but no worries. One is rejected, never give up, and then keep on submitting again. Okay, we often have experience of being rejected many times, but we keep on submitting. We never stop submitting. It will land in some journals one day because we always improve after the rejections. We improve our review articles. Okay, yes. Challenging comments from editors and reviewers. Sometimes we are not saying challenging. Sometimes it's you know that it's personal comments. I mean, comments, they are written in a very personal way, like a bit rude sometimes. So just take it easily. If you just revise your papers based on the comments that you can revise, and if you don't like some comments, you can just always refute or disagree with that comments. Okay, so take this easily. Okay, don't take it personal. That's what I'm trying to say. And identify alternatives. By this, I mean that when we have our review papers, we always have, plan A, B, C, D for the journals that we want to target. Okay, so let's say that journal A already rejected, we already identified journal B, C, and D. So that's what I mean alternatives. Okay, and lack of expertise. Yes, I mean, if you yourself need or are the only person to write the review articles, it's a bit difficult because you may not have this knowledge and next knowledge. But as I say, we can work with others, approach yourself, volunteer yourself, or invite others to work in a team. Then you can compensate your lack of expertise. Okay, right? Yeah, that's all I would like to share. Thank you. If you have any questions, I would love to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Lam. Just what good about you? You're always on time when you deliver your talk. Really nice. Finish at 12:05, lively. Okay. Actually, we have a pile of questions actually on the chat box. So, are you willing to answer one by one?
Sure. Okay, let me just
Okay.
go and see
Let me read.
Okay, can you just read out?
Order. Yeah. Or you need to have some break for a while.
Let me see.
Oh.
I have to start from where? Okay.
Okay. Never mind. I already compiled the question. I just read for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Okay. All right. The first question for Amira, she asked, can you share other journals that accepted opinion or short review? Is it a good start to focus such a
Okay.
type of
I'm in the field
approach
of
before starting a review paper?
again, meaning that the question asked me about to sharing the journals that accept opinion. Is that the question?
Yeah. Opinion on short review. Yeah. Yeah, that's the question.
Okay,
Sir.
right. I can only speak for my field. So my field is in general environment. So if let's say for journals that is in the field of environment, normally they will accept opinions and short review articles.
Okay.
Example, Science of the
All right.
Total Environment, Chemosphere, Environmental Research, Environmental Pollution. Those are the journals that can accept short review. You can just go to that journal, go to Scopus and check. You will see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next one for Sirajul Akmal. He asks, how do we know that we write is considered professional?
Okay, all right. So there are a few ways to approach this. Of course, you want to know whether the way you write is professional. Is of course you submit your papers, and then it will be, if the editors thinks that it is good or professional, they will send for they will invite reviewers to review your papers. Then you will get your comments. Then from there you will know whether your paper is professional. Okay, that's one.
Okay.
But before that, if you want to know whether your review paper is professional, as I say, try to, after you have written your review papers, try to invite others, your colleagues, if you are students, your friends, or most importantly would be researchers that is in your field to read the papers. You can invite him to be your co-authors for joint review papers if they are willing to improve your papers and also provide good comments and improve further. So in a way, it will improve the quality of your paper and also to make your paper more professional. If that answer your question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay, and this one from Dr. Johnson's Lim. He asks, can you share how do you divide review works among your team members, and how can this be done in an efficient manner? The question is, can you share how do you divide review works among team members, and how can this be done in an efficient manner? Can you share your
All right.
experience, tips?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have no secret to hide. Okay, so first, I will have a short meeting with one or two of my research team members. That could be master students, PhD students, or postdoc. We will sit down, and then I will bring up some. I will suggest some hot topics. That hot topic has to come. It has to come from us as a supervisors, and I will ask them to go and study a little bit, maybe 1 week, for them to read some papers, and then they will come back to me. We will have another meetings, and then we will think whether this topic is worth to write a review papers. If yes, there must be some reason. If no, there must be some reason. So after that meeting, we think yes, then we will proceed with another step, that is to write down, to really plan the title, the table of content, and the abstract. And from them, we develop further. Okay, so once we have finalized the title, abstract, tentative abstract, and also the table of content, meaning that, okay, we want to have the section 1, section 2, section 3 on this topic and that topic, right? Then we will assign, we will delegate to each other who will be handling this section, who will be handling these sections. This applies not only to my research team members, it also applies to the way how I work with collaborators from other universities. We will have Zoom meeting, we will have online meeting to discuss this. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next question asks about how, this one for Izni Mustafa, asks about how to make our review paper different from the previous review under the same topic.
Okay. How to make your review paper different?
Yeah, how to
Okay.
make okay.
First, you need to know what the previous review paper talk about. You need to know that first. Okay, they talk about A and B. Then only you talk about C. You don't talk the A and B back. You get what I mean? Or let's say
Okay.
they talk about A and B, and then but they didn't talk about this and that aspect of it. First, you need to know what are the current review papers or research papers talking about. Then you write something different. You need to know that first. Then only you can
Okay.
write something different. But my suggestion is we don't want to write a different review paper. We write differently because we think that writing that difference has some value, has some interesting findings that can be shared out to the research community. The novelty is more important. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And another one asks, Nomi asks, what is the difference between review paper and systematic literature review paper?
Okay, so right, so this goes a bit deeper into the technical part of the review papers. Okay, review paper, if I can share, most of my review papers or most of the review papers that we are writing is systematic review papers. If I'm not mistaken, systematic review paper, you have this, they call it PICO. P is population, I is interference, and C is comparison, O is outcome. So if your review papers has the elements of this PICO, it's called a systematic review paper. So most of my review papers, let's say for P, population, so I may write a review papers, let's say I have a review paper on locusts, right? The locust outbreak, right? And I have written the review papers with a team of researchers on locust outbreak focusing in China. So only the population in China. So having that element, that we can already call it as a systematic review papers. Or I normally have my review papers on comparison, the PICO, the C comparison, and also the outcome. I want to review some new findings and from the comparison of the existing literatures. That is also called a systematic review papers. But we have another type of review paper that we call it, I think it's called meta metagenomics review paper. That one is a different. That you have to use a big data. Let's say nowadays, if you want to prove whether this and that vaccine is really effective for COVID-19, right? So you need to use a special software to analyze the big data of the performance from each and that vaccine, and from that you come out with review papers. So that is different type of review papers. But most of the review papers that we are writing, or I suggest you to start to write, is systematic review paper, focusing on one of the elements, whether it's B or C or O. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Okay. And then for engineer Nazri, he asked, what is the minimum number of reference for good review paper? This is for the Q1 and Q2 journal. Do you have any suggestion?
I would say above 25. Above 25.
Above 25.
25.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just in my field, because when you have too little references, unless your field, the topic that you have written, really doesn't have that many previous papers, then of course you don't have that many reviewers. But normally, in our world, in this world, we have a lot of people, working on the same topic. So 25 above, it would be good. Normally, I would put it at 30 for a typical review paper, 13 references. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to the chat here. The one that. Okay. All right. There's one here from Intan Martina. She asked, what should we do if we don't get any response from reviewer for more than 1 year? Should we withdraw the paper?
Oh my God!
I don't know.
This
Got
case,
this before.
we don't wait. Normally for my paper, after 1 month, if there's no news from the editors or not from the reviewer, no news from the editor, you can go to your submission website, right? Your editorial manager or what, right? In your column, you can email, right? Send the email and ask, may I know what's the status of my review articles? This is like giving a kind reminder to the editor, because we don't wait, we follow up in 1 month.
Okay.
Don't wait until 1 year. Oh my God.
Yeah, I maybe never encountered such a case for more than a year. All right.
I have these cases where my paper, there's no updates after like 1 or 2 months. So I will always email to the editors and ask, and they will check for you. And when they check, sometimes you need to know that sometimes your paper is not the fault of the editors. Your paper may just suddenly, lose of track in the system. So they have to find it out. So
Okay.
you better follow up. Thank you.
All right. And then another question from Shafwan. He asked, you categorize long, short, mini review papers based on number of pages. May I know the typesetting of the pages, such as font size, spacing, and column? Is it got standard for this?
There's no standard. That depends on the journal that you want to target. So that's why I say it's very important to read the guide for authors. Okay. Some are very specific on the font size, but font size is not that critical. More critical is the length of abstract, the length of conclusion, the number of tables and figures, the number of references, for example. Thank you.
Okay. Right. I think this one quite common question. This one for Faith. He said, can one send the same paper to different journals at the same time, or depending which one respond first?
Definitely no. Okay, let me just tell you something. If you submit the same paper to different journals, being an editor, we know that. We can trace that, and you will be blacklisted if we trace that. When I say you'll be blacklisted, that means, let's say I work as an editor of Elsevier. I found out that you submit this paper to Journal A and Journal B of Elsevier at the same time. We will blacklist you from submitting this paper to this and that journal, or maybe all the Elsevier journal. Don't do that.
Okay. All right.
Nowadays, it's big data, so it's easier to track this. Okay.
And then, okay, this Unisan asks, is there any suggestion for tools to check our writing before submitting it to journal?
Oh yes, a lot of tools. My students have been using software like Ginger. The ginger that we eat, we used to cook our soup, like Ginger.
Okay.
And
It's the name of tools, huh? Okay.
there are some Grammarly, Grammarly.
Grammarly.
I mean, so they will normally use those software to at least proofread a little bit. I mean, revise the simple English. Then only they will submit to their supervisor. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, got one more from Chai. Would like to ask normally how to decide the name of the first author or the corresponding author. Is it depend on workload or according to the topic handling by a specific person?
Okay, so there are a few things that I can share here. The first thing that we will look at, I mean, my team, is contribution. Okay, contribution, by this I mean that the first author always writes the most content, the contribution. Okay, corresponding authors normally it's also depends on one is contribution, and most probably it will be the project leader or the supervisors. And normally the students because they write a lot, so they will be the first authors. So and the supervisor will become the corresponding author. So some actors will become the corresponding author.
I think there's
I think I have
interruption.
Yeah. Should I repeat my answer again?
Okay, interruption a bit. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, just to answer that question is it depends on the contributions. I mean, the first author is normally the person or the students
Yeah,
who
Prahlam,
writes the
continue back.
most for that paper. Yeah, for that paper. And the corresponding authors is normally the project leader or the supervisors. Okay, and of course, if you are just the supervisor or the project leader, that doesn't qualify you to be a corresponding author, in my opinion. Like I'm being the corresponding authors because I also write a lot and revise a lot for that paper. So I will be the corresponding author. And the student who writes the most will be the first author. Contribution. Thank you.
Sorry, Prof. Still
Contributions,
related with the
okay.
question.
Okay.
Can be that corresponding
Your question,
author.
who is it?
Oh, sorry. Me, I'm Ahmad.
Yeah, introduce yourself first. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Ahmad from computers school.
Okay.
I would like to ask, can be corresponding authors more than one, or what is the maximum if it is can be more than one? Thank you.
Okay, these are very good questions. Okay, so there are journals, especially let's say for review papers, you will see some cases where you have more than one corresponding authors, and this is normal for review papers and also for high impact journals. Okay, so some journals, it depends on the journal that you want to target. Okay, some journal, let's say in my view, bioresource technologies can only accept one corresponding authors. Environmental pollution accept only one corresponding authors. But some journals, they are okay with having more than one corresponding authors. And it's not recommended to have too many co-corresponding authors, not more than 3 if you ask me. I hope that answer your questions. And why we sometimes have 2 or 3 corresponding authors is there are a few factors to look at here. One is depends on the contribution as well. Sometimes let's say if you have 2 corresponding authors, 2 of them, they also have a big contribution to these papers. And of course, sometimes it depends on the sponsors as well. If you are allowed to have, if that journal allows you to have like 1 or 2 corresponding authors or 1 corresponding authors, then that will allow, because sometimes some projects will require the project leader to claim some, they want to claim that paper as their KPI, they need to be the corresponding author. So in that case, consideration is given sometimes if his contribution is high, he will be the co-corresponding authors. I hope that answers your questions, Ahmad.
Yes, Prof. Really clear. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we take one more last question, sir. Okay, it's almost 12:30 now. All right. Say that this okay. There's one person they observe your styles. They said, why you always put your name last in your review papers?
My name
You hear the
last.
question?
Oh,
Yeah, your
okay.
name last in the
Right.
review papers. Yeah.
Right. So if you see that this is if you see my name is the last at that review papers, that means I'm the one who initiate and who initiate the review paper, who organize it, who invite the researchers, who structure, and also who also get the funding to sponsor, because sometimes to write a review papers, you cannot just online meeting before COVID. Sometimes we have to travel,
Yeah.
so I will be the main sponsors. So the main contribution. So that is initiated by me most of the case, if my name is at the last. And this follows the UK style. I mean, I used to learn from my supervisor, like corresponding authors normally has to be the last person. And let the student, they claim all the credit, we will be the last person, it's okay. I learned it from my supervisor.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's about it, the questions. It's so many more actually. But I guess some of you probably perhaps can personally perhaps to email Prof Lam, okay, if got any more further questions. Okay. So on behalf of Center for Research and Innovation Management, we would like to thank and express our appreciation to Prof Lam for willing to spend time with us for like about more than 2 hours. Okay. Our apology for the big technical glitch at the beginning, but I think it went quite well in terms of the content and also in terms of the response from the participant. Okay, before I conclude our webinar today, any closing remarks from Prof Lam? Okay.
Thank you very much to Dr. T and also to UTAM, to the cream of UTAM for inviting me. I actually enjoy a lot, and I hope the participants today that if you find my advice are useful, feel free to take it, and feel free to email me if you want to know a bit further. I have no secret to hide, and I'm so grateful that I see that today we have about 600 people.
700 actually.
So I hope you enjoy the session. Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof Lam. Okay, we're very happy to have you here actually to be part of our webinar. Okay, hopefully we can invite you again for another different topics of review. Okay, either we initiate this review webinar actually because we are in the MCO mode at the moment. So I think maybe give some ideas of our researchers why they cannot go to the lab at the moment. They have some ideas how they can write some review paper for their submission for this year. Okay, so thank you again to everyone who joined our webinar for today. Okay, on behalf of RIM, we thank again, and don't forget to keep update from our Facebook page for the future webinar. Okay, we have one more coming on 21st July about engineering education by Prof Fatin. Okay, and I think that's about it from us.